I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
All right. Happy Friday, guys. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I have two special guests tonight. They are candidates running through the Green Party. Their names are Christina and Chibu. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you, Sabby. I'm a big fan. We both are.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. So first and foremost, I want to start off with your campaign. So both of you are running, and I think that it's important that we do have people running third party or running independent. In particular, we've been talking about this for a while, having candidates run in Congress, not just for president. I think a lot of people are more familiar with the Green Party running for president. So I want to start with you, Christina. First and foremost, why did you decide to run for office? Who are you running against? And a little bit about your campaign.
So I decided to run for office, and it's a very complex history with me. So I'm a first generation Egyptian, and I grew up in foster care. I was emancipated at the age of 16, and I really had to hustle and push myself. And I worked two jobs. I was able to go to school, and it was a few wonderful people around me. They pushed me, they provided me support, and I didn't get my first safe environment until I was like 25, 26. And I wanted to give that back on a larger scale to everyone, because I wanted to bring a whole bunch of people to this side. And being trained under a whole bunch of people that have worked in Wall Street and DC, you're capable of doing that. And I'm also running against Menendez, and I'm not scared of Menendez. I'm not scared of Biden. I'm not scared of Netanyahu. I understand justice. I'm used to fighting oppression. And currently, with what we're focusing on in the campaign right now is collecting signatures to get on the ballot. I have until May 31st to collect 1,200 signatures. We have quite a few events today. Not today, this weekend coming up. We're going to be all over New Jersey. So feel free to reach out through my website or GPNJ, and you could volunteer and join us.
Awesome. So I just want to remind everybody of Menendez and who that is. Remember, guys, he's the senator that actually him and his wife were just caught for corruption. I believe this is the second time he's been caught for corruption. So some people remember we covered that story a while back. So it's good to see somebody running against him.
Oh, yeah. And the reason, just to follow up quickly, the reason I chose the Green Party, if you look me up, I actually started as a progressive Democrat. And then it looked like they were going to support me. So I was going with it. And then they told me that they weren't going to support me or my progressive policies. And they had people lined up, and they were going to continue to support Menendez or one of their friends. And that meant corporate buyout people that aren't actually supporting the community or the individuals or the voters, but they're corporate donors. So it put me into a bad spot. And I'm very thankful that the Green Party of New Jersey opened the doors to me, because I wanted to continue to run on my principles. And Menendez, I'll actually be the only U.S. Senate candidate on the ballot in 2024 that does not support Biden or any, can I say the G word? Jenna?
Yeah.
Okay, genocidal candidate. Okay. I don't want us to get in trouble. Any genocidal candidate in office or running. I believe in holding people accountable.
Well said. And Chibu, I want to move over to you. You're in Illinois. Why did you decide to run? And I want to hear a little bit about your campaign. Also, who are you running against?
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Chibu Sonye, and I live in central Charleston, Illinois. I am running for United States House of Representative for Illinois District 13, which encompasses Urbana, Champaign, Savoy, Decatur, Edwardsville, and Springfield. So it's along the lines, but it encompasses a lot of college towns, which is part of why I've decided to run, particularly for Congress. I live in, I always knew I was going to settle in central Illinois. And because they have a lot of college towns, I've seen people, and I work at a university, I've seen people struggle with student loan debt. And one of the key things in my platform is actually pursuing student loan forgiveness, since the Supreme Court said that it's going to be Congress's job, and it's a promise that's been promised and dangled for a lot of my community. It will tangibly benefit Illinois and our community to get that relief. And most of us, or at least most of the people who have the student loan debt, aren't going to be able to pay for it anyway. And so I know that it helps students, it helps families, and it helps grandparents too, because everyone is in this higher education complex. The second and third thing is I want to bring back federal dollars into my municipalities and into my communities. A lot of our small towns are struggling to keep up with not being under the poverty limit, but also working paycheck to paycheck and having multiple jobs. A majority of us are in a sector position, work in retail, or are connected with like a university. And so we all work for a wage, and we're all working class, and a lot of us don't make that much money. And it's been frustrating to see people in Congress who have healthcare, who have everything, who don't have student loans and have been promising these things to the generations above me. And so I decided that student loans, people deserve it. It's been asked for. I want to move money from the military directly into like education and infrastructure. I realized that I don't want to be battling between whether our fire department has a new roof or whether a school gets some new books. We have the money to pay for all of it. We can just pay for things here. And that was an issue that came up in my community recently during COVID, actually, whether we could get a new roof for the fire department or books for these students and more air conditioning. And so I don't believe that we need to be battling each other. I learned from one, I've been listening, hopefully I'm not fangirling too much, but I have been listening to you for quite some time, as well as the other folks in RBN, Brianna Joy Gray, a lot of your other in your sector, and I listened to you. So I'm 27. This is the first time I'm really able to run for Congress, and hearing the complaints, hearing the frustrations of the people ahead of me and people older than me, I decided rather than pushing my energy and enthusiasm and encouragement into Democratic Party, I said, no, I'm going to find another home. And I did. I found one with the Green Party where they don't deride me. They don't ask me to just wait my turn. They don't ask me to just vote blue no matter who. They value the complexities and the value and like the values that I have. And so I'm doing the hard thing. My campaign, we need over 12,000 signatures. Physical signatures to get on the ballot. I'm super, super lucky. I have a great amount of volunteers. And so we're getting there, and we're really far ahead, which I'm happy about. And with this upcoming weekend, our goal is to get over 3,000 signatures. So we're way above what we actually need. The goal is to get 15. And so I'm happy with, like, there's encouragement and there's excitement in my community for something different. A lot of Illinoisans don't vote. A lot of Illinoisans are upset with both parties. A lot of Illinoisans, if not all Illinoisans, know that neither party truly serves them. They serve Washington, D.C. So here I am, old enough to hear your lessons, old enough to see what the future can be, and make a tangible decision to do all the different things that you all have been begging people to do. So I'm doing the hard work, and I'm using the Green Party, and I'm showing my community just how like rigged this whole system is meant to be. And we already know it. So I'm proving it. It's a visceral thing right now. We can see it. And once I'm in office, we can fight for reform. The third thing on my agenda is election reform. People don't want to participate in politics. And I want my community to participate in policy making because it will materially benefit us, and it impacts us every single day, which they know. They just don't have that belief in the people anymore. So I'm doing something different, and I'm being a green.
Wow. I can tell you, it's so great to see young people, just flat out willing to run third party. It's very refreshing. I feel like it was just a couple years ago that a lot of the younger people were running through, as Christina mentioned, Justice Democrats. It's nice to see this shift. I think it's definitely needed. Chibu, remind me, who are you running against?
Yes, thank you. The current incumbent is Nikki Baczynski, and she's a Democrat, a very corporate, moderate to the right Democrat, and she has not been focused on our community and what we're actually asking for and advocating for.
I'm glad that you mentioned, I'm sure, and both of you have a similar story with this in reference to working class. I'm glad that you mentioned that, just because, like, obviously you went to college as well. I think there's a lot of misconception. People assume that because someone went to college that they're not a part of the working class. That's definitely not the case, especially today, especially for those of us that have student loan debt. And when we look at wages as well, I think that's another thing people don't realize. I want to focus on that for a second, wages. When it comes to wages, I mean, we saw, Congress, $15 minimum wage actually passed in the House. But when it came to the Senate, it did not pass. And it didn't pass just because of Republicans, as much as Democrats will tell you that. There were also Democrats that voted against the $15 minimum wage. And this is it's crazy. It's 2024. We still don't even have a $15 federal minimum wage in this country, which is pretty insane if you think about it. Both of you are part of the young generation. What are some of the things that you're concerned about when you look at wages today and you think about your future? I'm going to go to Christina.
Some of the things that I'm concerned about when it comes to wages, just because I've struggled with homelessness as a teenager, a young adult, is being able to afford housing. And right now, when I'm outside just collecting signature, and that's just my top priority. I'm meeting families with kids that are homeless, and they're signing my petition, and we go and we advocate, and we'll speak with the politicians, and the politicians it's just a glaze in their face. They just don't care, and they get to go home and sleep at night. And we have so many resources that have had fundings cut in 2020 from 2024, that have been recently cut, and I can't even redirect people because I've as a social worker. So what I do within my community is I'm able to make phone calls, connect people, resources. If you need first and last month, it used to be easier. Now it's impossible. And I have a network of other people within the community that I have to call. And a lot of us keep hitting dead ends. And I may have my degree, but I have a lot of student debt because, again, I didn't come from a privileged background. I had to take out loans. And for me, I knew education was the key to freedom and stability. But I have the student loan debt, and I just lost my train of thought. Sorry, I'm really excited. I'm just really happy to be with you.
It's okay. I was just going to add that I think this is really important for people to hear because, again, just because someone has a degree doesn't mean that they didn't come from a working class family. It doesn't mean that they're not working class. This is it's a common misconception. People think that because you went to college, that means that you're well off financially, and that's not necessarily the case.
Oh, yeah. I work a full-time and I work a part-time while running this campaign. So I run on maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep sometimes. If I'm lucky, I could get 6 hours of sleep. And I really depend on my team and the volunteers to really help me because I have the solutions and I have the fight because I'm used to challenging people in the courtrooms. I'm used to challenging people in positions of power. So me challenging people isn't something that I'm scared of. And I've been able to help clients and community members. So I just want to be able to bring my skill set on a larger scale and really give back and bring more people on this side. It's very exhausting when you get these phone calls and you have people that are in dire need of any services and you're just I'm at a dead end myself. And universal health care is another top priority, along with affordable housing, because we still have people, and a lot of people have a misconception where if you have commercial insurance or you're paying for commercial insurance, you have great coverage. That's not true. You have, for someone going to rehab, for example, or a mental health facility, even if they're paying for health insurance, you can still wind up being told you have to pay $8,000 out of pocket, take out a second loan on your house, and go into even further debt just because you're having a crisis or you're in a bad moment in life, and people shouldn't be punished for having that.
That's right. Chibu, when you think about wages currently in this country, you know, what are some of the things that you're worried about when you think about the future?
One of the things I'm worried about, there's like two. Something that's come up a lot in my community is Social Security and what that can look like for my generation, or more so. There's a carrot being dangled by some of the like Gen Xers who are saying so anyone who's worked a day in their life gets to have Social Security, but anyone who hasn't worked from like X day onward it's up to them what they're going to do. And it's frustrating for me because in Illinois, actually a lot of people are on Social Security, on fixed income, but also in Illinois, it's very much promised that we are paying into pension. And so I feel as though for wages, Social Security, me and my friends and my counterparts are thinking about that and thinking how there is something that was promised us is no longer is trying to be taken away. It's still there, but it's trying to take it away. The second thing is I don't feel like my wages go very far, which is part of why retirement seems impossible. and part of why we're upset about Social Security being away. So those two come together. I got a raise that was supposed to be like adjusted with inflation as well as like my own, work ethic. And that was super great, except for the fact that meant that my taxes actually did increase. Things are done by rates a lot in Illinois. And so if you get $15 more, $10 more, $100 more a month, that means that your rates are increasing. And so it feels like my raise was non-existent. And also my money doesn't go very far. I'm pretty frugal. So I'm like that. I'm the person that they want kids to be like. So I save money. I don't eat out too much and I don't splurge. So all those like petty things. But groceries are more expensive now. Like eggs are $3 now. I'm in Illinois. I'm in farm country. So things are like a head of broccoli will be $5. And that's the non-organic version of it, and so we have smaller markets, we have farmers markets, which I go to into patronage, but they also have to like keep up with things. So it feels as though no matter what I do, even if I were to get a raise or to move jobs to get higher amount of money, even in central Illinois, my dollar's just not going that far. And it's, yeah.
It's a big problem for, I think, most of us. And you're right about the groceries. I continue to see that price increase. I want to pivot a little bit to foreign policy. So as both of you know, I think one of the biggest foreign policy issues right now is Israel and Gaza. And we've seen the way that whether they're Democrats or Republicans have voted for legislation to give more money to Israel. Both parties support the state of Israel, right? Like regardless, this isn't a Republican thing or a Democrat thing. We've also seen squad members support funding for Ukraine, whereas they may have voted differently this time around for Israel funding when it came to Ukraine. That was not the case. If you were in Congress, how would you vote on foreign policy legislation in reference to giving billions of US dollars to other countries? Where do you stand on that particular issue?
If I may go first, militarism is actually a very big part of my agenda. I want to directly take funds away from our military and put it directly to education, into infrastructure, so that way the students in my community don't have to deal with student loan debt, and that they're actually able to pay for their books and have their library. So that's an issue in my community. When it comes to like foreign policy and militarism, I would like the United States to obviously be to acquiesce and to leave the countries and to lower bases, but also Oh, I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. We'll go to Christina. We'll come back.
Well, I'll continue from Shibu because we actually spoke prior. Yes, we're working on international policies together now. So we want to remove the military bases from other countries, and we want to bring our troops home. We don't need to be the world power. We want to be able to be friends with everyone. We don't need to destroy other countries and places like Congo and Palestine and Sudan and Afghanistan. We want to be able to utilize the funds to provide international reparations and fix what we have destroyed. So when it comes to like Gaza and Palestine, to help assisting with their own independent infrastructure, we could do that federally, create federal jobs with a livable wage, and this will not raise taxes. And then this will also boost our economy because we're going to be developing, the houses, the pipes, bringing the education over there and really helping them to be their own independent country and running.
Yes.
All right. That sounds good. Chibu?
Yes. I wanted to add, how would we get it done? Through single bills. Something that I do applaud the Freedom Caucus for, which is not a lot, I want to say, but the small parts that I do appreciate that they did to flex their power was to initially get solo bills. I don't want to be doing packages anymore. It has to be single from the House to the Senate, because that way we're actually being told how much we're spending. Like, it's not one or the other. It's not all of it or nothing. It's yes or no. They clearly did that when it comes to student loan forgiveness. They clearly did it when it comes to Medicare for all. They could have did it for every other thing. We have to do it for the military as well. Also, I don't think that we should give a cent more to the military until they pass their audit, which they have not done. Imagine if the Board of Education didn't pass an audit, or they spent more money, they would get eviscerated in the news, and they would get torn to shreds. But somehow we can give a failing military and not completing wars properly and degrading military more and more money on top of what we already give them. They've already asked for a certain amount of money, and then Congress gives them more. In Illinois, we love our veterans. We love the people who fight for us. Like, we are all about that. Yes, sirree. At the same time, the military, as we see it right now, is not taking care of our veterans. They're not taking care of our soldiers and sailors, and they're not protecting the world. We're not actually safer. So until they can pass an audit every single unit, because they're competent people who have many dollars to their name. So I believe that they're capable of passing their audit, and it would be Congress's job to ensure that actually happens. So single bills, and until the Pentagon is audited properly, and they can just tell us where their things are, because that's the thing. That's what the audits are. It's, do you know what you spent money on and where they're currently located and how you use them? And their answer is no.
Right. Okay, I want to also ask a little bit more in reference to Gaza. Where do both of you stand on that particular issue? Do you feel that President Biden should call for a ceasefire? And what do you feel should happen in reference to Israel and Gaza going forward? Let's go back to Christina.
So Joe Biden should be held accountable for his part in these war crimes. Same as every person in office currently that has voted and actually enabled these war crimes to exist. Joe Biden does have the power to stop funding completely and not just, put out a tabloid and saying, oh, we're no longer sending weapons over or funding it. No, actually stopping it completely and cutting off all funding and any ships going out. And I support, so on my website, I do have I did have my viewpoints, but after speaking with people and learning more, I believe when it comes to the decision, and this is just my personal opinion, Chibu might have a different one, when it comes to the decision of whether it's a 1 or 2 state solution, I feel like the Palestinians, as well as the victims under Netanyahu, because we do have protesters in Israel, we do have the youths going to jail, we do have rabbis getting beaten, and letting them, the victims of the U.S. and Israel oppression, discussing with each other on what they want to do, because the U.S. has already dictated so much about what's going on and what's happening, that I think that kind of conversation we could facilitate, but they should be able to have that conversation. The U.S. can just respect their decision instead of telling them what to do.
All right, Chibu.
Yeah. One, Joe Biden, it has not been following what Illinois wants and what his base actually is asking for. So yes, he needs to have called for ceasefire over 200 days ago.
Yes.
When we need humanitarian aid, we currently are sending small amounts of humanitarian aid in the larger bills that are funding the continued genocide of Palestinian people and the American hostages. I want to take a moment for the hostages. So in Illinois, in particular, there have been over 5 hostages that have been related, and if we explanate that to the all 120, it could be up to 11 or 12 or 13 people who are connected to Illinois, who are Americans in Gaza, and we don't know what their what their status is. And during a ceasefire, we got the most amount of hostages. We saw that, and it's been absolutely heartbreaking to see our president say, let these Illinois lives be gone, so that way they can just continue to give bombs to Israel for their own, I think, monetary reasons. We need humanitarian aid. There's currently a pier being that's now operated, and those are all waste of money. If we flexed our power as United States Congress, as the federal government, we could demand and force the hand of the Israeli government, so that way we are getting aid and it's being protected. There are international laws and there are United States laws. We have to, no one is above the law. That's the idea, right? The idea is we're all equal. We're all equal. We're supposed to be, no one's above the law. And so we have to put our foot forward and ensure that that is actually happening. The idea of the day after, the way to get the day after is not only with a ceasefire, but also with truth coming out. So the journalists that are happening, sharing people's stories, sharing their testaments of what happened, ensuring that we get an account of all of the atrocities so that justice can actually come about. And then we'll have peace in some way, shape, or form, restorative justice. And like Christina said, the United States is implicit in the larger war crimes that are happening, that we're seeing day to day. And the United States will have to take some aspect and some accountability, which is fine. And I'd rather spend I'd rather spend our money domestically, but I'd rather spend it in supporting the Palestinians than creating their downfall. It's also important for me to say that what's going on in the West Bank is also a part of the war on Gaza.
Yes.
The settlements are illegal according to United States law and current international law, which we abide by. Again, we need to hold ourselves accountable. So if these laws are being broken, then we have to hold the people accountable that are complicit in letting it happen. So war crimes that will be tried and that will come forth in the future, we need to have a Congress that's willing to make the hard decisions and make the tough decisions, because again, no one is above the law. We have to prove that.
That's right. Well said there. I'll make sure I show your websites as well. Christina's website here says Christina Khalil for U.S. Senate, healing the New Jersey of today and tomorrow. Again, running as a green, and Eric can put the links to these in the chat as well. And also Chibu's website here as well. Chibu for Congress, running in Central Illinois. Awesome. Again, it really warms my heart to see young people getting involved in electoral politics through a third party, and not through the Democratic Party and not through the Republican Party. It really warms my heart to see this. I'd love to have both of you back on another time as well, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having us.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. That was awesome, wasn't it? I know they're so young. They're so young, but it warms my heart to see young people out there, saying, you know what? I'm tired of the system. I'm tired of Congress. I'm going to run, but I'm going to do it through a third party. It really warms my heart to see that. So I thought they're pretty awesome. Follow them, you guys. Eric actually put their website links in the chat. Here's the one for Christina. Follow her website. And here is the website for Chibu. You can also follow both of them on Twitter too, by the way. So yeah, they're awesome. Pretty based. All right, let's get to some of the comments. We'll show the thumbnail, dive into other stories, and do the damn thing. All right, go to comments here. Shout out to Wesley Fish, who has been a member for 23 months. Still the best on YouTube, Sabby. We love you. Keep on keeping on. Our angel of the internet and of the progressive movement. I wouldn't say we still have a progressive movement. I'll be honest with you, Wesley. I don't think there is a progressive movement, but I think we're building a third party movement, which I think is going to be great if we keep that up. Thank you so much for the super chat. Oz is in the house. Define what justice for Palestine might be, please. Thank you all. Yeah, I think they did a pretty good job of that. Thank you for that, Oz. Joe says the Green Party has some young, beautiful ladies. Joe, I see you eyeing, Joe. I see you looking, Joe. Shout out to Cooper for gifting 5 Sabby Sabs memberships. Shout out to Cooper and those of you who got those. And I think Cooper did this twice. So shout out to Cooper again for gifting 5 Sabby Sabs memberships. So shout out. And Alicia says, I love your show, Sabby Sabs. Thank you so much and welcome. Welcome. I think it's Alicia. Is it Alicia or Alicia? Because Alicia can be spelled this way too. Maybe it's Alicia. We'll find out. Anywho, what is up, fam? Let's go ahead and give a shout out to Sabby patrons. I actually have a bonus story tonight too, because I did not expect to receive that update on Diddy today. So we're going to cover that as well tonight. All right, guys, shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you so much for your support. If you're interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories: ultimate, Sabinators. There's also Sabsters and Sabbies as well. There's a lot of Sabbies. I always say they're like the meat of the sandwich. And of course, members. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate all of your support. You can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. So thank you guys so much. Again, I'm working on making something a little, newer with the patron doc. I want to try to see if I can do something a little bit different, but this is what we have for now. Here is where we are. All right. And let's go ahead and show that beautiful thumbnail. Again, we will cover that Diddy story as well. That'll definitely be breaking news for me because I was not planning to discuss that because I didn't know there was going to be an update today, but I did see that and we're going to get into that as well. Tonight, we are discussing Max Blumenthal's speech. This is pretty huge. There's also some funny moments in this as well. For those who are not aware, Max Blumenthal actually spoke at the University of Massachusetts here in Massachusetts. I wasn't able to attend this talk because Amherst is pretty far for me. It's like those of us in Eastern Mass on the Boston side, it's like 2 hours away without traffic. So I wasn't able to make it to that one, but we do have the speech. So we're going to talk about a little bit about that. We're also going to discuss, I don't know if you guys have heard about this. This is wild, folks. CNN campus protest report. So it appears that Anderson Cooper and another reporter at CNN actually uncovered something about those UCLA campus attacks and who those people were. So we're going to get into that. And then you'll also see the woman behind him. She is a professor at UC Irvine, and we're going to talk about what happened to her in reference to the protest there. So, and there's another professor, I'm sorry, they're all in California. It's a Cali special. Another professor at Sonoma University that was suspended because of their position on Israel and Gaza. And we're going to dive all that into one big fat sandwich of a story. We're also going to discuss Biden admin resigns. This one is really, I would say popular right now on the internet because the young woman who resigned, Lily, she actually is Jewish American. We're going to get all into that story. This is a big one. We'll talk about what X decided to try to do to her after she sent that resignation letter and she posted it on X. And of course, Chibu and Christina were here. They are running through the Green Party for Congress, taking on some pretty corporate big wigs. Christina's running against Menendez and his corrupt ass. So there's that. And we are also going to discuss this breaking story that just came out about Sean Diddy Combs. It looks like Cassie is obviously going to be vindicated here. And then we'll dive into a little bit more of those Louisiana ballot measure results for 2023. We're getting closer and closer to June and July when we will start discussing the ballot measures for 2024. So hopefully your state will be one of them and you'll be able to know. That's why I say, like, if you say I'm just going to sit at home, especially if you live in a ballot initiative state, don't just sit at home. At least go vote for those ballot measures because that is going to affect you directly in your state. So, yeah. All right. So why is this? Okay, that was there. Yeah, we're going to dive into Diddy first. We're going to dive into the Diddy story. So breaking news today, it appears that 2016 hotel footage has been released, which actually shows Diddy physically assaulting Cassie. Now, Cassie was his ex-girlfriend, his girlfriend at the time, from what I believe, but she's now his ex-girlfriend. She is the one that has filed this lawsuit before, against Diddy. They decided to settle out of court. But if you remember a while back, some of the things that Cassie actually described in that, hold on, let me pull this up. In that lawsuit was obviously not just the essay incidents, but also that there was physical abuse from Diddy. Now, at that point in time, I remember some of the Diddy stands saying that they didn't believe Cassie, or she was just trying to take, another man down, or they're just trying to take another man down. And at that point in time, I continued to say allegedly because we actually did not have any evidence. Well, now things have changed because today, it was reported that the LA hotel that they stayed in 2016, somehow they have actually now released that footage. Now, if you're wondering why we're just now seeing this video footage today, from what I understand, allegedly Diddy Combs, and this is something that Cassie said as well, paid off the hotel, paid them $50,000 for him to actually receive that footage and hold on to it. One of the things that Cassie also said is that when he would attack her in this way, he would basically keep her in the hotel room for days until her face would recover and heal. So she was not, beaten and then taken to the hospital. Obviously, that would raise some red flags. So that didn't happen. So this is why I think a lot of people may not have seen the abuse, but it is captured on camera. Now, for the sake of people watching, we are not going to show you the entire video. I will tell you, if you want to see the full video, you can find it. It's all over social media. It's all over X right now. But for the sake of the viewers and people that are watching, I know there's some of you that could be traumatizing for you. So I'm not going to show you him actually hitting her. But I'll tell you what happened because I've already seen the video. Let's go ahead and dive in here. CNN was reporting this earlier. Diddy shown in a 2016 video assaulting former girlfriend.
But first, give us some context on what we're about to see.
Yes, Jake, this is incredibly disturbing footage, so I do want to warn our viewers, as you did. But as you said, Cassie's lawsuit, which was filed in November of 2023 and then was quickly settled overnight, it did open the floodgates. But in that complaint, Jake, she details an incident that she alleged happened in March of 2016 at a hotel in Los Angeles. She claimed in her lawsuit that she was physically assaulted by Diddy. Now our team in the LA Bureau, we have got our hands on that surveillance footage, and it appears to corroborate Cassie's claims identically. Really, Jake, the lawsuit lines up with exactly what we are seeing. So let's take a look.
Let me pause for a second because I'm not going to show the actual physical part, but I'm going to describe what's happening here. LPA Film says Diddy was already done, but now he's done. Yes. Yeah, it's pretty bad. So what's happening here? It appears this is Cassie, and she's walking down the hallway of the hotel. She has a bag in her hand, and you'll see she also has on her coat.
New surveillance footage obtained exclusively by CNN appears to corroborate some of the allegations of abuse against music mogul.
Now, this is Diddy running down the hotel hallway in a towel. So it appears that if I were to assume he was probably in the shower and she decided to try to leave while he was in the shower. She has on her coat. She has a bag, or I'm assuming what is her bag. She's going to the elevator. Maybe this was her way to try to get out while he was preoccupied, right? But he starts off, he's running down the hallway.
Sean Diddy Combs. The video captured on multiple cameras shows.
I'm going to stop right here because we're not going to show what happens, but I'm going to tell you what happens. So at this point in the video, he grabs her, throws her to the ground, kicks her multiple times, kicks her. Then he grabs the bag, goes over to her, pulls her up by her hair, and drags her across the floor. So again, if you want to see the video footage, you can see it on X. It's available. A lot of people have tweeted it out. I'm not showing it again on here because I know some people may be triggered by that. But that's what happens in this video. The first thing I thought to myself when I saw this video footage was it reminded me of the Ray Rice incident years ago. Ray Rice, former NFL player, played for the Baltimore Ravens. He had a video footage of him beating his wife. I think some of you may remember this. They were in the elevator. And of course, like I said, hotels have cameras, even in the elevators. And it was caught on camera. And remember, his career was done after that. It was done. I think after seeing this video, I think Diddy is done. Like done. Because this is a woman. This is a female. How can you, and this has boggled my mind. Like, if you're a guy, like what is going through your mind as you are kicking a woman? She's on the ground and he's kicking her. What are you thinking? So we're going to fast forward through this part because, like I said, I wasn't going to show what he did there. And then this is the end part of the video where he was dragging her.
There is no audio. According to the complaint, Combs became extremely intoxicated and punched Miss Ventura in the face, giving her a black eye, which, according to the lawsuit, prompted Ventura to try and leave the hotel room.
So you see what I was saying before? She was trying to get away. So there was already abuse that happened inside the room, which is why she is trying to leave. Now, here's my question. In reference to the LA hotel, who gave him this video footage, which is why you are just now seeing it and you didn't see it back then. He paid them off to get this video footage so that no one would ever see it. But of course, here we go. Now you're wondering, how did they have the video footage now? Remember when the feds and Homeland Security raided Diddy's homes? Remember, they also took computers, hard drives, that type of information. So it appears he must have taken that video footage and he must have kept it in his house, or he had it on a hard drive somewhere. And that's how they got the video footage. Now, this is just one of the first videos that we're seeing. There could be more that come about, but this is bad. This is really bad. Some of you may have seen the video.
The surveillance video obtained by CNN begins as she enters the hallway. The complaint says, as she exited, Mr. Combs awoke and began screaming at Miss Ventura. He followed her into the hallway of the hotel while yelling at her.
So then here we go again. Notice how he didn't even take time to put on clothes. Just ran down the hallway in his towel.
The complaint goes on to say he grabbed her and then took glass vases in the hallway and threw them at her.
threw glass vases at her. Let's remove this part because I'm not going to show that again because they go back to the video. Okay, and then we get back to the hallway here.
Moments later, he can then be seen throwing an object in her direction. According to Ventura's now settled lawsuit, the pair began dating several years after they met in 2005. They parted ways in 2019. Combs' attorney said the decision to settle was in no way an admission of wrongdoing. Ventura declined to comment on the video, but her attorney told CNN the gut-wrenching video has only further confirmed the disturbing and predatory behavior of Mr. Combs.
I just want to add in here as well. Yes, the Oracle's right. He treated her like a dog, but even though he decided to pay a settlement towards Cassie, and they say that doesn't mean that that doesn't actually prove that there was wrongdoing, it still gives people the impression that there's something that happened that you don't want people to know about. You don't want this case to go to court, right? You don't want to have a trial. It still gives people that impression. I mean, let's just keep it real.
Words cannot express the courage and fortitude that Miss Ventura has shown in coming forward to bring this to light. The video hasn't been seen publicly before and comes on the heels of a series of civil lawsuits alleging Combs' involvement in sex trafficking and sexual abuse, allegations that Combs has repeatedly denied. Authorities searched Combs' homes in Los Angeles and Miami in April as part of an ongoing federal investigation carried out by a team that specializes in human trafficking crimes. In a December 2023 statement, Combs responded to the claims in some of the lawsuits, saying, "Sickening allegations have been made against me by individuals looking for a quick payday. Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged."
But now we have video that at least shows that in reference to the physical abuse, which Cassie did actually lay out this incident in her lawsuit, we actually do have video proof that this did happen. And we have proof that at least that incident did happen. So I'm thinking about all the people that jumped on the Diddy defend train when Cassie first came forward and said that they're just trying to take another man down. And now we have the video footage. And I'm wondering how those people may feel now. You know, I mean, of course, at that point in time, it was alleged, but we had heard these stories about Diddy for years before. Someone mentioned in the chat, they said, now do you guys believe Tupac? I mean, we've heard these stories for quite some time. Abusers are really good at lying, you guys. I want to say this very clear for people, especially anyone who's been in this particular situation. Abusers are very good liars. Very good liars. And oftentimes, particularly if it's physical abuse, when they are physically abusing a significant other, it usually starts in private first. So a lot of times this is why their friends and family members don't know that this behavior is happening. It usually starts in private first, but eventually it can get to the point where it does happen around other people. And that's another thing that Cassie said in that lawsuit, that it also happened in front of other people. There were other people who were around when these incidents happened. So those people become enablers.
Now, that Instagram post from Diddy was back in December. That was not in relation directly to Cassie. It was referencing many of these allegations and lawsuits that he faces. Now, I have reached out to Diddy's team. We have not heard back from them today. But Jake, I do want to point out there was a settlement deal between Diddy and Cassie. So neither of them can speak. But again, we're still waiting to hear back from his team. Now, a really great point that you brought up top, Jake, was what is going on in Diddy's world, right? We've all heard stories of Hollywood enablers and enablers in circles around powerful people. But something that I want to point out, Diddy is one of the most powerful people in music history. He is a mogul. We have not seen any support in Hollywood. All of his famous friends, since these allegations came forward, we have not seen anyone come to his defense. And that silence is very loud, Jake.
No, they've been silent as hell, including Ashton Kutcher. Remember we talked about this where he said he didn't want to comment on it because he was actually close friends with Diddy as well. He didn't want this backlash to come back on him. So no, Diddy's friends have been very quiet.
Yeah, Elizabeth Wagmeister, thank you so much. Incredible work by the LA Bureau. Let's discuss this with CNN's John Miller and Julie K. Brown, a Miami Herald investigative journalist who's been following this story, also best known perhaps for her work pursuing the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking story. So, John, Cassie filed her lawsuit in November. The feds raided Diddy's home in March. Now we see this awful video, which is more than 8 years old. And yet Diddy has still not been charged with anything. I would think there would be grounds for his arrest in that video. Why hasn't he been charged with anything?
Well, the video is out of the statute of limitations. The statute of limitations in California for a simple assault is a year. For domestic violence assault, it was 3 years. They've moved that up to 5 years, but this is out of range for a state charge in California. However, let's get back to that federal investigation. What HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, is doing, as Elizabeth framed it, is they are building a racketeering case, a RICO case based on human trafficking and allegations startlingly similar that track those that have been made in Cassie Ventura's lawsuit and in the lawsuit by another individual who worked for Combs that tell these stories of people being brought in the presence of weapons and drugs and so on. It's very much like what they did in the R. Kelly case, which got him 30 years in prison. So this charge, even though it's state crime is out of the statute of limitations, would be fair game in that federal case.
Julie, Cassie's lawsuit claims that hotel security staff saw what was happening on surveillance, and they urged her to go home. The lawsuit then claims that Diddy paid $50,000 to get that footage from hallway security. CNN has reached out to the hotel for comment, not a hotel I'll ever want to stay at. How serious would it be if they witnessed an assault, did not report it, and then accepted money to basically disappear the security footage?
Also, is it legal for Diddy to pay for, isn't that essentially a bribe? Like to pay for security footage to be released to him? Like, is it legal for Diddy to do that? But this is a good question here in reference to, is the hotel going to be liable? I would think they should be, but then that makes you wonder about the statute of limitations too.
Well, there's certainly a question of negligence on the hotel's part. And by the way, this just didn't happen in a hotel in LA. These kinds of incidents have been happening in hotels in Manhattan and in Miami Beach as well. So there presumably could be other video, because all these hotels have cameras. There presumably could be other video out there. And in addition, a couple of the other lawsuits that have been filed against him allege that that there is video evidence. And that is exactly what authorities were trying to get their hands on when they conducted their searches of his homes in Miami Beach and in California and LA.
John, assuming that Sean Combs, Diddy, is eventually charged, how important might this video be?
Well, it's going to be very important to the assault charge. It's going to be very important to the credibility of Cassie Ventura as a witness. Remember, when she brought that lawsuit, Ben Brafman, Combs' lawyer, called it baseless, outrageous lies from somebody looking for a payday, claimed that she had tried to blackmail them, that she demanded $30 million. That video is stunningly supportive of her credibility, of her allegations. It unfolds exactly as she charged it did in her lawsuit. So it will help her if she becomes a witness in that case, and it will probably be a chargeable offense in the federal case if and when it comes.
Julie.
Even though we have passed the statute of limitations, when you think about Diddy's career, when you think about his reputation, I would say that Diddy is done. And I've seen people, I was on Twitter earlier today, and I saw people that were supporting Diddy when those allegations were first revealed, now saying, throw him under the jail. Like, that video is very damning. I also want people to remember that Cassie was very young. You have to remember, like, when Diddy actually, brought her over to Bad Boy, she was a singer. She wasn't just his girlfriend. So just FYI, she had a great voice. But when he first, brought Cassie over, you have to remember, I think Cassie was like maybe just reached 19, was like 18, 19. So she was very young. So there's that as well. And now that this video footage has been released, it makes me wonder, are any other of Diddy's previous artists or, let's say, girlfriends are going to come forward as well. It makes you wonder.
The allegations against Diddy go far beyond Cassie's story, of course. Multiple lawsuits filed in the past year claim that Diddy hosted what he called freak-offs, sex parties so brutal that the young men and women would sometimes vomit and pass out from being drugged. They would be beaten. They would be raped. They alleged that Diddy filmed it and directed his staff to change lighting or bedding to better display the people who were performing for him sexually. These are allegations. Does this remind you at all of the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking case? And how did they get away with it?
So let me go ahead and respond to this really quick before they respond. Some of you may be wondering, why would he videotape this? Why would he record it, right? People said the same thing about Epstein. Like, why would he record it? Easy. Blackmail. Blackmail. You never know. There could be information that Diddy had on some of the people that are in those videos. You never know where they're in, positions or uncompromising positions that they would never want people to see them in. Epstein, blackmail. So I know it sounds crazy because it's like, why would you record that? Are you that stupid? No, it's not about them being that stupid. I really do think a lot of times it's connected to blackmail. Now, last time Kim Iverson was on the show, this is one of the questions that I did ask her about. Like, do you think there's any connection between Diddy sex trafficking allegations and Jeffrey Epstein? That's something I still wonder if there is some type of connection. I mean, Diddy knew a lot of people. He partied with a lot of people, like successful people, like billionaires, so it wouldn't surprise me if he partied with Epstein as well.
Well, remember the Jeffrey Epstein case happened decades ago, so they didn't have cell phones, for example, or this kind of recording technology. So we're far ahead of that in this. And even though they have some of that material, I'm sure what they're also going to look for is bank accounts, evidence that he paid people, including people that provided him with underage victims. And that's really the key here is whether they're going to be able to show that he also was engaged with sex trafficking minors, which is a very far more serious crime.
When it comes to minors, too, I just want to add there is no statute of limitations in reference to minors. So there's that. And I want to get into this as well, because Candace Owens tweeted this out. And I want to get your opinion about this in reference to Diddy. She said, he's not in jail, or excuse me, let's go to Anna first. Anna Paulina said, this is hard to watch. P. Diddy should be in jail and rejected from polite society. Real men don't do what he did. And Candace Owens said he's not in jail because he's a Fed/CIA asset. Kanye tried to tell everyone. What do you guys think about that? I mean, obviously, I don't have evidence of that, but that's an interesting comment there. I've said before that money can get you a lot of things. When you have a lot of money, you can pay off people, just like he was able to pay for that video footage. You can pay people to hide things. You can pay people to hide information. You can pay people to hide evidence. It's not like Diddy is broke. Bryce said, oof, Candace saying that is wild. Yeah, she said it. Rachel said, Diddy's sons are creeps. I got invited to a party in Miami Beach and declined. Had to wear bikinis and do stuff. Yikes. Interesting. I don't know, but that video footage is very damning. And like I said, if you want to see the actual video in detail, you can see it on social media. Again, I'm not going to show that on here, but I'm just going to tell you this. It does not look good for Diddy right now. And what's interesting, if you look at his Twitter page, he actually has a pinned tweet, and that pinned tweet is a statement from him where he basically says that the allegations against him are false and are obviously trying to attack his character. Let's go to some of the comments here. Yikes. Thank you for the super chat, Cynical. I'm going to a protest for the first time this Sunday in Atlanta. What should I look out for? People that look sus. Always watch out for the people that look sus. Like they just kind of look like they don't belong there at the protest and they're looking around kind of awkward. You know, there's always infiltrators is kind of how I see it. Definitely wear comfortable shoes, comfortable clothes. It's Atlanta, so it might be hot. It's not hot here yet. It might be hot. So you might want to bring a hat, sunglasses, that kind of thing. Definitely bring water. This is something sometimes people forget when they go to protest. They don't bring a bottle of water. Definitely bring water and like maybe a snack or something in your purse, or if you're a guy, like in your pocket or whatever. Definitely bring something to snack on, like a protein bar or something, and definitely bring water. Thank you, Dawn. Hi, Sabs. Much love. Let's do the damn thing. Thank you and welcome. Thank you for the super sticker, James. What's up, James Starks? Rich says, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, nah, Pimp Daddy. Yikes. Rachel says, thank you for not showing the full video. Yeah. You guys know a while back, this is another thing I don't do on this channel anymore, is the police brutality videos. I used to show those, and then some people reached out to me and they said that, those things can be very traumatizing for people. So even when I talk about policing, I won't show the video. It's also out of respect for the family. Thank you for the super chat, Coffee Lover. Free Palestine. Get some coffee on me. Thank you. I don't drink coffee, but I'll get some tea. I drink tea. Valerie says, Sabby, I respect and appreciate your caution and not showing the rest of his monstrous behavior. This is more than enough for me. Yeah, man. Notori says, hell, people don't even treat their pets like he treat her. No. AM says, on Breaking Points, they said there is more footage of him SAing people, among them a male video director, I think it was. Interesting. I'll have to see that clip from Breaking Points. Thank you, Brian. Wow. You think Ashton Kutcher would have learned his lesson when it comes to not commenting? Yeah. Brian, are you a comedian? The picture says it's Comedy Corner. The sign says that behind you. Do you do stand-up comedy? Is that you or someone else? I have to ask. And thank you, a kid. Sabby killing the game, nearly at 100K subs. Thank you so much, a kid. Knocking on wood. Knocking on the wood. All right, guys. Comedy Corner. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. All right. I think it's time to smash the like. If you haven't done so, go ahead and smash that like button. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. And we are keeping it going on. We're moving on to this next story, which I call this a big win, particularly if you care about what's happening in Gaza. It appears that another Biden administrator has resigned. Now, this story is even more popular than the other staffers that have resigned, because this is the first Jewish American that is a part of the Biden administration to resign over his support of Israel. So this speaks volumes. She was actually on the BBC. I think she was also on CNN. I want you to hear what she says here about what Joe Biden could actually do, what he has the power to do as president of the United States. Her name is Lily Greenberg Call. So here she is here on BBC News.
What we have to remember is that right now, American-made bombs are killing innocent Palestinians in Gaza. And until that stops, I don't think that the president's done enough.
How much influence does the president have there, obviously, in messaging that to Mr. Netanyahu, the prime minister in Israel?
I think the United States has a lot of leverage. I think the president could call for a lasting ceasefire. He could broker a hostage deal. He could stop sending weapons to Israel, and he could condition aid. And I think he could do it tomorrow if he wanted to. What we have to remember is.
So that's her. That's Lily there. She is the Biden admin that has resigned. This is, again, really huge because she's the first Jewish American to do so. Now, she sent a resignation letter. And after she sent that resignation letter, she posted it on Twitter. And then all of a sudden, something really funny happened. All of a sudden, her account disappeared. Hotspot called it out. Elon Musk bans Lily Greenberg Call, the Jewish Biden appointee who just resigned over Gaza. So you'll see here, it said her account was suspended because she didn't follow the X rules. So it says she violated the rules, I guess because she posted this letter here. We're going to get into what that letter says as well. But it appears either that account was recovered or she created a new account because she is back on Twitter now. Yeah. So you see how they're trying to shut her down because she is a Jewish American. We're going to get into a little bit more detail here in this Common Dreams article. It says the first Jewish Biden appointee to resign over Gaza quits on Nakba Day. Lily Greenberg Call, a special assistant to the chief of staff in the Department of the Interior, became the first Jewish political appointee to resign her post in protest of Biden's support for Israel's genocide in Gaza. Call announced her resignation on Wednesday, which is also the 76th anniversary of the Nakba, or the expulsion of the majority of Palestinians from their homes in 1948, as part of the process of creating the current state of Israel. So again, I think it speaks volumes that she decided to resign on the anniversary of the Nakba. That says a lot. Nakba and Sha'al, the Hebrew word for Holocaust, mean the same thing, catastrophe. Call wrote in her letter, I reject the premise that one people's salvation must come at another's destruction. Let's highlight this here, guys. This is base statement right here. I reject the premise that one people's salvation must come at another's destruction. Cannot say it well enough. I am committed to creating a world where this does not happen, and this cannot be done from within the Biden administration. What Israel is doing to people in Gaza and to Palestinians across the land is incredibly un-Jewish to me and such a disgrace to our ancestors. In her letter addressed to Interior Secretary Deb Haaland, Call said that she had worked for both Vice President Kamala Harris' presidential campaign in 2019 and Biden's in 2020, and was thrilled to accept a position at DOI. I joined the Biden administration because I believe in fighting for a better America, for a future where Americans can thrive, one with economic prosperity, a healthy planet, and equal rights for all people. However, that changed with Biden's financial, military, and political backing of Israel's war on Gaza. I can no longer, in good conscience, continue to represent this administration amid President Biden's disastrous continued support for Israel's genocide in Gaza. Call spoke of her Jewish immigrant heritage and how her family story, moving from grandparents without college degrees to a granddaughter to a presidential appointment, represented the American dream. And yet, I have asked myself many times over the last 8 months, what is the point of having power if you will not use it to stop crimes against humanity? Let's say it again. What is the point of having power if you will not use it to stop crimes against humanity? The point is for them to do the bidding of Wall Street. Instead of answering to their constituents, instead of answering to what the voters want, what we want. It's a powerful letter. President Biden has the blood of innocent people on his hands. Call also spoke of how her Jewish faith and lifelong experience in the Jewish community informed her decision. What I have learned from my Jewish tradition is that every life is precious, that we are obligated to stand up for those facing violence and oppression, and to question authority in the face of injustice. In a separate interview with the Associated Press, she criticized Biden for making Jews the face of the American war machine, adding that this is deeply wrong. And this is why you've seen organizations like Jewish Voices for Peace. What do they say? Not in our name. They have the t-shirts that say not in our name, because yes, it's true. People should not have to take on that burden because of what Joe Biden is doing, because of what our government is doing. And not just our government. Let's be honest. Germany is giving weapons to Israel too. In fact, Germany is number 2 after the United States when it comes to giving Israel military aid. So just FYI. She goes on to say to the AP, it says, Call pointed out comments by Biden, including at a White House Hanukkah event, where he said, were there no Israel, there wouldn't be a Jew in the world who was safe. And at an event at Washington's Holocaust Memorial last week, in which he said the October 7th Hamas-led attacks that triggered the war were driven by an ancient desire to wipe out the Jewish people. Call's own views on Israel have altered dramatically in the last few years. So this is something I wanted to point out, folks. She didn't always feel this way. In fact, at one point, she actually thought that AIPAC was a good organization. So we'll get into this in this article, and then I want to get into some of the things that she said later in the Teen Vogue article. So she didn't always feel this way. Greenberg Call, who graduated from the University of California at Berkeley in 2019, was president of Bears for Israel, an affiliate group of AIPAC. So you see how AIPAC has affiliate groups? And she said she grew up going to student events hosted by the group. In a piece for Teen Vogue 2 years ago, she said she began to question AIPAC and its mission of ensuring unconditional American support for Israel as she got to know more Palestinians, and after AIPAC endorsed Republican candidates who supported Donald Trump's false claims that the 2020 election, right? So what made her change her mind about AIPAC was her getting to know more Palestinians. And then also the issue of Republican candidates, AIPAC, funding Republican candidates. So there's some partisanship in here that is also issue. Call told the Post that it had been a struggle to make the decision that she did because of her deep roots in the Jewish community, but that Jewish values were ultimately what led her to go through with it. What Israel is doing to people in Gaza and to Palestinians across the land is incredibly un-Jewish to me and such a disgrace to our ancestors. Call wrote in the letter that while she knew people who lost family in Hamas' October 7 attack on Israel, notice the number has changed again, right? That killed 1,100 people. We started out with 1,400 people, then 1,200 people. Now they're saying 1,100 people. You guys notice the number keeps decreasing? Interesting. And was terrified by rising anti-Semitism. She was certain that the answer to this is not to collectively punish millions of innocent Palestinians through displacement, famine, and ethnic cleansing. Call outlined the horrors of Israel's war on Gaza. More than 35,000 people, I would say it's probably more than that, and 15,000 children, attacks on hospitals, mass graves, the destruction of every university in Gaza, and the targeting of journalists. These all are violations of international law, none of which would be possible without American weapons, and none which have been condemned by President Biden, she wrote. She goes on to say the president has the power to call for a lasting ceasefire, to stop sending weapons to Israel, and to condition aid. The U.S. has used nearly no leverage throughout the last 8 months to hold Israel accountable. Quite the opposite. We have enabled and legitimized Israel's actions with vetoes of the UN resolutions designed to hold Israel accountable. President Biden has the blood of innocent people on his hands. Call's resignation comes one day after Biden announced another $1 billion weapon shipment to Israel, even as it continues an assault on Gaza's southernmost city of Rafah. Biden had previously called a ground offensive on Rafah a red line that Israel should not cross. Yet critics pointed out that Israel's current operations in Rafah should certainly qualify. So again, when Biden made that announcement that would be a red line, I told you that was all theater. AIPAC would not give him donations if this were the case. Right? Now, So again, at one point, she thought AIPAC was a good thing. As time went on, though, she started to change her mind. And that goes to this piece that she wrote here for Teen Vogue. Let's get into this here. And there's a picture of AIPAC and there's Netanyahu, of course. It says AIPAC is endorsing candidates, but progressives should turn them down. This was a warning that she sent out in 2022. So this article was written by Lily Greenberg Call in 2022. So way before October 7th. I want to get into this part here. Oh, sorry. Did I skip ahead? When notifications of a shooting at Tel Aviv bar flashed across my computer screen last month, I immediately pulled up Find My Friends, running through my mental tally of friends and family there. A close friend of mine lives in the same neighborhood, and his location from the earlier in that day showed him near the scene. He wasn't responding to me on WhatsApp. I kept refreshing the app as minutes went by, fearing the worst. I eventually heard from all of my loved ones. The experience reminded me of the dire urgency to change the status quo. Now, she talks about her experience with AIPAC. When I served as president of Bears for Israel, the AIPAC's affiliate group at UC Berkeley. So I wanted you guys to see this because I want you to understand that AIPAC actually has affiliate groups at the colleges. When we go back to that video of Cory Booker meeting with AIPAC and telling them, you got to get these kids while they're in college. Don't wait until they're out of college. They have already started this. So they are getting them while they're young. I thought I was playing my part to promote peace. But in the past several years, I've come to see that AIPAC, alongside an alliance of hawkish U.S. politicians, Christian Zionists, and defense contractors, contribute to the cycle of violence by demanding or benefiting from unconditional support for the Israeli government, no matter the cost. Again, she wrote this in 2022. Goes on to say, for me, reaching this conclusion was part of a journey that started at a young age. I grew up in Jewish communities where unconditional support for Israel was considered a part and a parcel of being Jewish. And I participated in AIPAC student events through Jewish Day School. But as my world expanded, so did my understanding of AIPAC. So she goes on and she talks about how she studied Arabic in college and worked in humanitarian aid in Greece. That's where she met Syrian Palestinian refugees. She developed friendships with them. My relationships across differences stood in direct contrast to the echo chamber I grew up in, where I was taught that the only option for sustained Jewish safety in a post-Holocaust world was separating ourselves from non-Jews in a militaristic state of our own. And then I want to jump to this part here where she says, right here. She was sending a message to progressives. By accepting AIPAC's support, progressive lawmakers give legitimacy to AIPAC's choices of unconditional support for a government carrying out what many observers believe are human rights abuses, while simultaneously undermining their own work toward a truly multiracial democracy here. So she was sending out that message to progressives because, as you can see here, the Progressive Caucus, they were one of the ones that also was aligned with AIPAC. So that's another thing that she pointed out. And she also talks about in this article how AIPAC was also aligned with Donald Trump and other Republicans as well. So she started to see, wait a minute, AIPAC is basically a part of both parties. You know, so also if you're a progressive, why are the progressives aligning with AIPAC, right? If you're really a progressive Democrats should not accept support from AIPAC, full stop. Do members of the CPC want to be connected to an organization that also endorses insurrectionists? She was referring to the MAGA Trump crowd. Does the CPC want to be aligned with politicians like Scott Perry, who compared Democrats to Nazis, and Elise Stefanik, who has threatened that the Democrats want to grant amnesty to 11 million illegal immigrants to overthrow our current electorate and create a permanent liberal majority in Washington. I look at the list of AIPAC endorsees and I see members like Eric Swalwell, Adam Schiff, Juan Vargas from my hometown of San Diego. I know these members care about their diverse constituents, including progressive Jewish constituents like me. But progressives must make a choice, just as I did once. I realized the harm AIPAC causes. Will you stand on the side of democracy, equality, and justice for all Americans, Israelis, Palestinians, or will you make a common cause with those who are accused of perpetuating apartheid and undermining democracy? She says here, in 2022, it is time to choose. So again, if she had made her journey a little bit earlier, let's say in 2020, before the presidential election, she probably wouldn't have been a part of the Biden campaign. But here is another one, another Biden staffer that has resigned because of his position on Israel and because he is supporting Israel. I say kudos to her for resigning. And that's the poll question that's attached to the live chat. Do you think that more Biden staffers are going to resign as we get closer and closer to November? She's not the only one, but she's the first Jewish American staffer to step down. Let's make sure that we protect this woman, right? Wrap her in bubble wrap for real. Savita, is that how you pronounce your name? Savita? Remember the time Sabby said she wanted 10K? So oh yeah, that was a long time ago. Or feels like a long time ago. Thank you, Nas M. I hear Kim Porter died under mysterious circumstances. She was only 47, very young. I've heard about that too. For those who don't know, Kim Porter was also another former girlfriend of Diddy. So just FYI for those who were wondering about that. Desert Mantis says Sabby needs to invite Steve Kornacki to review the poll results. Do you guys want to see someone in khakis in the white shirt? Is that what it is? That's funny. Let's get the comments on Rockfin, Eric. All right. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. Sab, just learned California Assembly Appropriations Committee just blocked cow care despite over 250 orgs and unions in support. Last year, I got on a Zoom with orgs looking to get it passed. A year after the same disappointment, I'm thinking now they have to run out as a CBI. Nope, they embraced insanity. I told them I think you mean wasting your time. They already told you with their non-action, they have no intention of passing cow care. Thank you for this as well, Roger. You're wasting your time with them. You don't have to depend on them. You can do it yourselves. The moderator started reading me the rules and regs for civil discourse. I said, that's okay, I'll leave, but y'all gonna be right back here again in 2 years. Then lo and behold, here they are again. 250 organizations who support it. That's an army that can be converted to volunteers, yet they won't. So what's really going on? What is the point of having power if you will not use it to improve the lives of everyone around you? At this point, they cannot blame this on California's government. They too own this themselves because this has happened more than thrice. All that time and energy playing footsies with politicians could have put you to grassroots to do it yourself. They could have had it by now. Watch them embrace insanity again in 2025. That's a really good point there, Roger. Really good point. Okay. All right, guys. Go ahead and smash that like button if you haven't had a chance to do so. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. And we're moving on to the next story here. So, believe it or not, CNN actually led an investigation into those counter UCLA protesters that attacked the students that had the peaceful encampments at UCLA. Because apparently, again, of course, the police were there, but they did nothing. They were there while the counter protesters were attacking those students, and the police did nothing. So CNN, they're going to point this out in this report here of the counter protest investigation that they have. And I also just want to say thank you for proving my point to me that we can defund these damn police. Because if you're just standing there and this is happening and you're not doing anything, you have to know that the police is on the side of the counter protesters. They're all on the same side. The counter protesters, the police, and the government are all on the same side. Never forget that. Let's go ahead and dive in here. Now, we're going to show this in bits and pieces because there's certain parts on here I'm not going to show. But again, this goes back to that UCLA protest, counter-protester event where they attacked students with fireworks, and it is crazy. They beat up students. Here we go.
Allowed it to continue.
They were there spraying, they were there pulling barriers, and they were there to very clearly do some serious harm to the students who were on campus.
When you look at the counter-protesters, how many of them were UCLA students?
I would say basically none of them.
Who are the most aggressive offenders? A CNN investigation of hundreds of videos from multiple sources shows many of them are outsiders.
Pause for a second. So most of those counter protesters were not students. Remember, this is the same saying that Eric Adam made about the students that were protesting in the encampments, the peaceful protesters at Columbia University. He tried to say, oh, they don't even go to this school, which that was an outright lie. But notice their silence about the counter protesters that actually were physically violent towards the peaceful protesters. Very silent about that. That tells you what side the police is on.
Not UCLA students. Among the people who showed up that night, far-right with no apparent connection to the Middle East war, others driven by real beliefs. Among them, this man. He strikes a pro-Palestine.
We'll pause right there and then we'll go back to the other clip. We all remember, I think, seeing that video of the guy in the mask. Well, they actually found out who that was.
Of Beverly Hills, a senior at a local high school.
Come inside to the kitchen. How do I get inside?
So if you guys didn't hear, that kid that had on the mask, and I say kid, he was a senior of a local high school. He was a teenager that showed up that night. Now watch his mother defend him. Watch this.
I spoke with his mother.
Hi there. Are you Sharon? Hi.
How are you?
Hi. Let me introduce us.
She did not want to be on camera, but quickly identified her son from this picture at UCLA that night. She described in detail how her son found the mask and pole on the ground and said he was defending himself in this fight.
So you see how she's starting to switch this? She's saying that her son was defending himself. First of all, he had no reason to be there. Why is a teenager running around in the middle of the night to go attack these kids? What time does the sun set in California? For the Cali peeps in the chat, what time does the sun go down? What time? Let me know, especially this time of year. So right now in Massachusetts, it's still a little bit light at 8 o'clock. Okay, so just think about that. It was dark when he showed up there.
Her Facebook page, Yvonne Own's mother posted and circled a screen grab of her son from a local TV station. She wrote in Hebrew, Yvonne went to bully the Palestinian students in the tents at UCLA.
So again, his mother wrote that. His mother wrote he went there to bully the students at UCLA. And his mother also says that he was defending himself. So there is his mother on a social media post admitting that her son was going there to be the aggressor. People in the chat are saying California about 8:25, 7:45, 8 p.m., etc. Okay, thank you.
Idan's mother and father proudly support Israel and defended their son's actions at UCLA, saying he is heading to Israel to join the IDF.
So you see this? Do you see why this behavior continues? Right? Within like Zionism, they defended what he did and they said that he is going to Israel to join the IDF. Now, again, who is the aggressor in this situation? The students in the tents are not the aggressor. They're minding their own business. The counter protesters that came in, they are the ones that were the aggressors, and the police did nothing to them. They stood by while they attacked those kids. This isn't the first time that police have done this. There have been other situations in this country where peaceful protesters have been attacked and the police did nothing. Most recent one I can think of is during the BLM protests, where peaceful protesters were attacked by counter protesters and the police did nothing. Because again, the police, they are on the same side as those counter protesters.
After our interview, she texted to say Idan denies being at UCLA.
So then she said there that after the interview, he denies and declines being at UCLA after the mother already confirmed it. But there were also adults, like grown men that were counter protesters that showed up as well. Grown ass men like this guy. Let me make sure I turn the volume up just a little bit. Let me play.
You're Mr. Bibian.
Yeah, can you turn that off? You don't have permission to record me.
Bibian was wearing the same jacket he had on in the video from UCLA. He's a Los Angeles resident, age 42, seen at a 2022 pro-Trump protest outside the Los Angeles FBI office. He did not want to explain why he's on video doing this.
You're being a little rude, and I'm going to call the police if you don't leave.
Sure. Okay.
And then what makes it worse is he's wearing the same jacket that he wore that night. So this guy has gray hair, okay? So why is a grown-ass man going to a college campus at night to attack college kids? What is even happening here? Do you not have a life? You have nothing else to do with your life. Nothing else to do but go hit kids. Make this make sense, guys.
We identified not just Tom Bibian, but other older men who have no apparent affiliation with UCLA.
I mean, you've seen them at how many other events?
Lots of different events, school board meetings, city council meetings.
Angie Gavant is a Los Angeles area public school mom who's been tracking right-wing protesters in her area. The group who she'd seen protesting gay rights in public schools were drawn to UCLA that night.
The revolution ain't happening tonight. Man down, man down.
Though they were clearly at UCLA that night, there's no evidence these men participated in the violence.
Here comes the Jew song, man. Cover your ears.
The man who is live streaming, Narek Polyan, appears to be a persistent agitator who posts anti-Jewish tropes on his social media accounts.
But he was on the pro-Israel side. Isn't that crazy? The guy who actually posts anti-Semitic content was on the pro-Israel side. He was a part of the counter-protesters. What the hell is going on with people in this world? I don't understand what's happening here. This is insane. Now, I want to remind you again, don't forget, it was revealed that Jerry Seinfeld's wife and billionaire Bill Ackman actually funded these counter-protest groups. Now, she tried to push back and say, I don't have anything to do with what happened at UCLA. But that was before she hid the information that was posted on Instagram, which showed that she was donating like $5,000 to these counter-protest groups. So you see where this is coming from again. So the people who are actually being the aggressor in this situation, they're the ones pointing the finger and calling the peaceful protesters the aggressors and the hateful people. What kind of world do we live in? And I think we're going to, let me make sure this is. Yeah, I think that's the end of that segment. And then we get to the part. Oh, wait a minute. I'm so sorry. I just want to make sure I speed up to the Anderson Cooper part. Okay, she did find him. Here we go. So she did find that guy, the one who was recording. So let's bring him in as well.
Hi, I'm Kyung Law from CNN. Polyan claimed to us that he has a child at UCLA, though a student didn't accompany him that night, and that he had good intentions.
I was definitely keeping the peace. Okay, at least trying to.
You weren't there to make it worse?
No, of course I wasn't there to make it worse.
We'll skip through this part. It's just crazy. And we'll get to her here.
The next day, because I thought something that serious would happen to the students in the encampment.
Do you feel like they won?
Based on the way they were cheering when the police arrived Tuesday night, I think they might feel that they won.
King joins me now. It's still stunning to me that the police, I mean, there seemed to be some police around, but clearly didn't seem like police really moved in very quickly at all to stop this. You can clearly find these people. What's law enforcement saying they're going to do, or if anything?
So Anderson Cooper seems to be confused and doesn't understand why the police didn't actually arrest the counter protesters. You got to remember, Anderson Cooper is a Vanderbilt. He comes from wealth. So Anderson Cooper grew up believing that, you know, he's used to like calling the police and something happened. The police actually show up. They actually show up and protect his family's wealth, protect their property. Right. But Anderson Cooper doesn't understand that the police are on the exact same side as the counter protesters, because that's the side that the government is on the pro-Israel side. It's interesting to me. He seems to be a little bit confused, but that's the thing. He doesn't understand that police only solve 0.02% of crime. He doesn't understand that police don't prevent crime. He doesn't understand that the police are also, most of the time, they're on the side of the government, the same side as them, and the same side as these intelligence agencies.
Yeah, you know, that's a very good question. And we actually asked them. We went to the key law enforcement agencies. We started with UCLA Police Department. We reached out to them via email, their office line, text messages, cell phones. And despite our numerous attempts and very specific questions, we did not get any response, a clear response about their response that night or any follow-up investigation. We also reached out to the CHP and LAPD. They referred back to the UCLA Police Department. And back to your question, Anderson, I mean, we did identify not just the folks that you saw in the story, but additional people. You'll see them in that story that we'll post tomorrow morning on CNN.com. All right. Anderson.
So she actually did more work or more investigation into this incident than the police did, right? So that's UCLA. CNN actually doing some investigative journalism. Whoa. Going after those counter protesters. Now we pivot to UC Irvine, which there was another incident that happened there. There was a professor that actually went viral with her statement here in this video after she's being arrested by the police. And I think she has a really strong statement here where she's telling people, listen, your tax dollars are paying for the police to do what they are doing. Check this out.
We cannot have a genocidal foreign policy in a democracy. These young people are going to be the ones that have to pay the price for these horrible decisions. These police officers out here today, that's thousands of student scholarships. Thousands of students could have been able to go to school and have books and have housing. But instead, our chancellor, who is a very cruel man, decided to send thousands of dollars worth of state funding paid for by the taxpayers into the trash. Are you?
Yeah. So remember where our tax dollars go, right? So if you're in California, if you're in that, area, remember tax dollars going towards the police department. And this is what they're using the police for, to go to these campuses and to arrest peaceful protesters, faculty members, students, right? This is what they're using the police for, instead of having the police actually go out and solve some damn crime.
jeopardizing your job? What job do I have if the students don't have a future?
I was just standing here and I was eating a lollipop and they decided to arrest me for being in the presence of what's going on campus, which is really a shame.
We cannot have a genocidal foreign policy in a democracy. These young people are going to be the ones that have to pay the price for these horrible decisions.
It's true. It's very true. So you see how they're treating the professors and the students. You know, they didn't treat Dylan Roof this way. They don't treat serial killers this way, ladies and gentlemen. They don't treat serial killers this way. Police bully the peaceful people. It's a hot mess. It's crazy. That was UC Irvine. And then we go to Sonoma University, where this president, this is crazy, guys. This is absolutely crazy. California University president put on leave for insubordination after meeting Gaza protesters' demands. Can you believe this? Let's get into it. This is from Politico. California State University placed Sonoma State campus president Mike Lee on leave Wednesday after he agreed to protesters' demands to involve them in a university decision-making and pursue divestment from Israel. So because he sided with the protesters to divest from Israel, the university decided to put him on leave. Said, okay, bye. We don't need you here anymore. Now, why does this happen? University presidents respond to the board of trustees. A lot of the decisions that are made by university presidents are the decisions that the board of trustees want them to make. This is usually how it goes, folks. I worked in higher ed for a long time. I'm telling you from personal experience. This is usually how it goes. So these universities are controlled in the same way that our politicians are controlled, by the donor base. So whoever donates money to these institutions, that's who they work for. That's who they respond to. So they just put Lee on leave. Lee sent a campus-wide memo Tuesday indicating that he made several concessions to occupants of pro-Palestinian encampment on campus. The memo was sent without the appropriate approvals, according to CSU Chancellor Mildred Garcia. It goes on to say, for now, because of this insubordination and the consequences it has brought upon the system, President Lee has been placed on administrative leave. The punishment marks perhaps the harshest disciplinary action against a campus chancellor or president in California over the handling of protests of the war in Gaza. It also underscores an unwillingness to divest from Israeli weapons manufacturers, as pro-Palestinian protesters across the country have increasingly demanded the last few months among leaders of the CSU system and its sister University of California system. So California universities include UC Riverside, UC Berkeley, and Sacramento State, and they've agreed to study divestment like some East Coast universities, but none have gone as far as Lee. Lee told the campus that he would initiate an academic boycott of Israel in which links to study abroad programs in the country would be removed from university pamphlets, among other measures. He also agreed to work with a local chapter of the activist group Students for Justice in Palestine to form an advisory council on some decisions. So now we have this guy, right? Here's my advice to incoming students for fall 2024. You have two choices if you still want to make your voice heard in reference to this. If you have been accepted at a university for fall 2024, so you're graduating senior in high school, you can choose to rescind your offer Imagine if a lot of people did that. A lot of students just rescinded their offer. Remember, these colleges, they actually need students in order to survive. The students are the customers. Without the students, you don't have the professors, right? Because there's no one for them to teach. Rescind your offer for fall 2024. You can do that. And you can start a massive movement over that. Now, you're wondering, what do you do in the meantime? You can take a gap year. This is more common these days. You can take a whole year off where you just work that year, get some work experience under your belt, and then decide later. You don't have to start college immediately after you graduate from high school. You could go to a tech school. You can go to a vocational school. You can go to community college for that first year. So these are things that you can do. And I think if you created that type of movement in this country, then they would have to listen to you because they're not getting your money. Without your money, without your business, they do not exist. No students, no customers. No customers, no money. No money. The board of trustees is going to get very angry because they're going to want to know, why are they donating money to this university, investing in this university, and you can't put butts in the seats? That's how it all works, folks. Now, some people say, don't tell those kids that. You're going to ruin their future. The future is already messed up. And choosing to take a gap year and not go to college immediately after you graduate from high school, that is not going to ruin your future. That's something that you can do. Or if you do decide to attend in the fall, stage a massive walkout on day one. Two options, because they're not going to let you set up the encampments again, I don't think. What a mess, guys. What a mess. We'll bring up Max in just a second. Sorry about that. Let's go to some of the comments here. It's crazy, guys. Eb7 says that is exactly what happened during BLM. There you go. Notori, don't forget Sabby, the undercover cops that had on bulletproof vests under their shirts and police flag wristbands on. The Oracle, Sabby, all of these people are on the side of their funders. There you go. Katrina, police are protecting kids who aren't even damn American citizens. Defund the goddamn police. I don't know about the citizen part, but I just don't think that the police are actually protecting the people. And I know they ain't really trying to solve no damn crimes. They spend more time at Dunkin' Donuts than they do trying to do their damn job. You can always see the cop cars right outside of Dunkin' Donuts. Always. Okay. Thank you, David, for the super chat. Did you watch Diddy interview Uhuru movement leader? It was a good one, and he dropped a lot of history. Onward to 100K Sabs. No, I have not, but I interviewed him a couple of times, so I probably heard it already, but I haven't seen that. Thank you for that. And let's go to Rockfin Eric. Thank you. Yay! Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. A publicly traded company is owned by shareholders, with one or two being majority shareholders, meaning they're the ones the most money invested. Shareholders hire the board of directors, who hires the CEO. Sounds like universities are set up the same way. Donors on top. Under them, the board of trustees, who hire the president of the college. Going to college ruins your future. You owe money you can't pay back. It's true. Yes, it's set up in a similar fashion and a lot of times the board of trustees are the ones that actually choose the president. So yeah, money talks. Definitely. Okay. All right, guys, go ahead and smash that like button. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. And we're moving on to the Max Blumenthal speech, which I think is very powerful. For those who are not aware, Max Blumenthal actually spoke at the University of Massachusetts, the flagship campus here in Amherst, and he spoke to these students. It's called The Occupation Comes Home. This is really good, and there's some funny parts as well. Let's dive in.
This narrative was necessary not only to justify the billions of dollars of aid extracted from us and given to Israel, but to paper over the influence of Israel's domestic cutouts and its influence over our institutions. We would just shrug it off as shared values. Hey, this influence is actually positive. There's nothing unusual here. And so we're now at a point where Americans, and particularly the core constituencies of the Democratic Party, see the real Israel that has always been concealed from us. It's the Israel that I wrote about in my book, Goliath, which was sort of the product of 5 years of trips in and out of Israel, Palestine, particularly going into Jewish-Israeli society. This was between the years of 2009 or 2008, 2009, and 2013, 2014. And what I saw was a society that was primed for genocide. And that was my warning to America as we bankrolled that society and granted it with total impunity, showed it that there was no consequence for what it was preparing to do and for the indoctrination of so many Jewish Israelis into this militarized system.
So Max Blumenthal was one of the journalists, investigative journalists that did give people this warning years ago, right? So way before October 7th, himself, Abby Martin, I know Anya Parambil as well has talked about this. Dan Cohen, remember Max Blumenthal and Dan Cohen actually had a documentary about this, again, years ago. So the warning was always there. I think the struggle sometimes is just getting the information to the people. So I think more people know who Max Blumenthal is today than they did a couple of years ago. But here we are again, right? So there have been journalists, investigative journalists that have been to Gaza that tried to forewarn people what Israel was trying to do. So we always have to remember that some people just started talking about this October 7th, and there are some of us that were talking about this years ago. In fact, the first year I started this show, I was talking about Israel and Gaza. So always remember the people who just jumped on this bandwagon after October 7th and completely felt like it wasn't an important issue prior to that.
Now here we are after the killing of some 40,000 people. There's so many undocumented dead in Gaza under the rubble. We don't know how many there are, but we're seeing mass graves revealed almost every day.
Yep.
These are tokens of the real Israel, which has failed in Gaza to achieve its two main military objectives, defeating Hamas and liberating its so-called hostages, captives, and prisoners of war. Many of them are soldiers. And so what it's done is resorted to the industrial slaughter of children in order to satiate the bloodlust of a hyper-indoctrinated population that was humiliated on October 7th. It could not accept the latest ceasefire that Hamas accepted for its own political reasons. One, the linchpin of Israel's ruling coalition are two of the biggest fanatics in Israeli society who represent the incipient Jewish nationalist force which will soon take control of the entire government, Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, both disciples of the late American fascist rabbi Meir Kahane, whose nephew just attacked a Gaza encampment, ramming through protesters with his car. There's a direct connection. If Netanyahu had agreed to that ceasefire, these two characters, who control a total of just 4 to 5 seats in the Knesset, would have brought the ruling coalition down in a second.
So that part right there, I think, is really important because people say like this would all be over if Netanyahu would have just agreed to the ceasefire. But then you have to also remember the other people that are a part of the Likud, how you say it, the Likud party, and some of them are even more crazier than Netanyahu is, if you've seen some of their speeches on social media. So the entire party would have to be dismantled. But in doing so, even if you dismantle the party, you still have Zionism. So you have to remove Zionism. You have to remove that ideology, because as long as that is still ingrained in people, which, by the way, it's hard for people to shake that and change their mind about it, especially if you're taught that way since birth. As long as that is ingrained in Israelis in Israel, you know, we can still have those problems later on with a different political party. So that's important for people to hear.
They need the war to continue. The entire war cabinet has elected to invade Rafah. It's happening before our eyes. We're seeing people be slaughtered at an increasingly high rate because it's a conurbation of 1.5 million war refugees, mostly living in tents, mostly to the west of the city. And they have nowhere to go. Inside Israel, if there's any resistance to this invasion, it's coming from people who are concerned correctly that the hostages will be killed because they only care about the lives of Jewish Israelis. There's no concern for the lives of Palestinians. There's over 80% Jewish Israeli support for this invasion within Jewish Israeli society. However, they're divided on the issue of the hostages. And what many are saying correctly is that the hostages will be killed as an extension of the Hannibal Directive that we saw enacted on October 7th in order to deny Hamas political leverage. If they kill all the hostages, Hamas has no bargaining leverage, no ability to negotiate. That's how deep the culture of killing is.
So they are willing to forego the hostages in order to prove a point. And we've seen this time and time again where there were multiple opportunities for them to retrieve the hostages and they have been against it. Like multiple times, we've seen the IDF kill their own their own hostages, right? That were waving the white flag. There were 3 of them. So again, I don't know if I can stress this enough, but it was very clear to me from day one, I said this, that they did not care about getting those hostages back. Get this, folks? They are willing to let their own people die to prove a point. That is sick.
They will kill their own in order to destroy Hamas and complete what was begun on 1948. This is an existential war for Israel. The siege of Gaza enacted almost 20 years ago, and all of the impending military rampages that we've seen since then were designed to preserve Zionism according to the logical contours of Zionism, whose survival is predicated on the violent engineering of a Jewish demographic majority. That's something that none of the leaders of Israel would deny. Arnon Sofer, he's not particularly well known, but he's an important figure in that he helped design the siege as a demographer at Tel Aviv University. And he distilled the essential logic of Zionism when he said in 2004 in an interview with the Jerusalem Post, when 2.5 million people live in a closed-off Gaza, the pressure at the border will be awful. So if we want to remain alive, we have to kill and kill and kill all day, every day. That is the logic we're seeing play out before our eyes. So this week, the vice president of Netanyahu's Likud party, Shimon Boker, said there are no uninvolved civilians in Gaza, and then directly echoed Arnon Sofer from 20 years ago. You have to go in and kill and kill and kill. And we've heard that from so many of the Israeli leaders. These are not like aberrations or fanatics. They are distilling the logic of Zionism as applied to the reality today in Israel-Palestine. What decent person could possibly, who knows the facts? I mean, you all know the facts, or most of you. I mean, those of you who are Zionist infiltrators don't, but the most of you. What decent person who knows the facts could possibly support a country that needs to commit genocide in order to survive?
You can't. As a decent person, that's the thing. You can't support it. It's just, I don't understand how people can continue to make excuses for Israel at this point in time. How can you still defend this? How can you still defend this behavior unless you inherently believe that you are superior. Unless you inherently believe in Zionism, in that type of supremacy, then you can make excuses for Israel killing Palestinian kids, killing Palestinian civilians. You can excuse it if you believe in Zionism. That is why Zionism is so incredibly dangerous. We can remove Netanyahu. He can resign. But if the party still exists, you'll have still issues there where some of those people are even more crazier than he is. You can remove the party, but as long as Zionism is still at the root of it all, you will still have these issues just with different people in leadership.
I mean, that's pretty much what this movement all comes down to, this uprising all comes down to. And so more and more Americans are joining it. And it's clear that as they join it from within elite institutions like academia, that America's mask of liberal democracy has to be peeled back again and again and again, layer after layer, in order to maintain a special relationship with a foreign apartheid state 5,000 miles away called Israel. This is, I mean, what? Unprecedented waves of police violence. What? How many cops were here last night? 130 arrests, 125 cops. Fashion Institute of Technology last night, 300 cops for something like 30 to 40 protesters. A Bearcat smashing into Columbia University's Hamilton Hall. A cop discharging his handgun. Just full-on brutality. But it's not just that, it's political repression. The First Amendment is being systematically rolled back in order to protect a foreign state. This is exactly what President George Washington warned about in his farewell address when he warned of a passionate attachment to a foreign country which would corrode America from within. So you don't.
This is also what I want to add this to. I'm glad he mentioned that, because also when you talk about the founding fathers, I want people to know the founding fathers also did not believe in having political parties. They had warned that this would be an issue because people would most likely side with their party over their actual beliefs. And they feared that this would be an issue. Now we got to say a lot of other things, about the founding fathers. But that point there that Max brought up about George Washington, that's very important.
You don't have to be a radical. You could be an American nationalist and be disgusted by what's happening. The U.S. is corroding its own image, its own carefully crafted image, its own as an exceptionalist shining city on a hill, as Ronald Reagan called it. This is the source of the soft power that undergirds American imperialism and allows America to export its political project abroad. It is corroding it in order to accommodate the imperatives, the genocidal imperatives of Zionism, and everyone in the world can see it.
And for those who are conservatives that say they're more of a Reagan conservative, remember some of the things that Ronald Reagan did. Ronald Reagan had no problem, standing up to Israel. He had no problem saying, oh, nope, I'm not going to send you any more weapons because you are bombing the hell out of Lebanon and it's looking really bad. And people are starting to turn on you. You are losing support. So I'm not going to send you any more weapons and aid. You cannot continue to bomb Lebanon. Ronald Reagan did that. A conservative president. Here we are, 2024, and we can't get a Democrat to do that. Does this make sense to you people? Does that go to show you just how corrupt our government has become over the decades? How much more money has poured in to electoral politics by corporations and corporate interests in Wall Street? It's bizarre to me. It's just bizarre to me. And it's gotten to the point now where a lot of people say, oh, it's the radical left who, want this war to end. No. You can even talk to some conservatives. Even they're not feeling this. If you actually get out there and talk to people, forget what Fox News says. Forget what CNN says. They're paid to read you a script. You can go talk to people for free on the street. Even some conservatives are opposing what Israel is doing. Israel is losing support across the board.
Except in Germany. And this is not something new. It's something I've been covering, been writing about, and you all, many of you for much longer have been witnessing this process. It played out under Trump. It played out under every other president. Obama may have forestalled the inevitable, even though he oversaw more disproportionate force against Palestinians than any previous president. But this is part of a historical process. But now it's reached sort of its culmination under the president who, under who I call President Puddinbrain. Joe Biden, who was hailed for his decency at the White House Press Correspondents Association dinner. Completely delusional. Who is Joe Biden? Is he, what is Joe Biden? Who controls him? No, that's perhaps, he's had he's gotten some good work done. I might benefit from whoever did his hair at some point. But we're not here to make fun of, we're not here to mock the looks of Biden. The reality is Biden, okay, he started out as a right-wing Democrat who opposed school desegregation. He comes from that background. He wound up at a fairly young age on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And in 1982, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee had a meeting with then Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin, the founder of the Likud party, sort of the godfather to Benjamin Netanyahu, who would eventually become a junior minister. And Ronald Reagan and the Reagan administration was actually furious at Menachem Begin for invading Lebanon. Reagan called this invasion and the civilian casualties caused by Israel a Holocaust. Those were his words. Yep. Everyone on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee was furious at Begin. They were worried about actually what it would do to U.S. imperial interests in the Middle East, including getting the oil. Biden was the lone exception on the Foreign Relations Committee. He stood up in a private session, this was reported by the New York Times at the time in 1982, and told Begin, you should go in there with full force and not be afraid to kill women and children. I would do the same thing. So that was...
I told you, Joe Biden has always been this way. He's a warmonger. That question about his hair, I thought that was kind of funny because I did notice it over the years. Joe Biden was losing his hair and then all of a sudden he has more hair. So I don't know, maybe he went through some type of, like hair treatment or whatever, but I noticed that too. Also, his teeth all of a sudden became really straight and really white. My mom was like, those aren't his teeth. My mom was like, I don't think those are his teeth.
This is a young Joe Biden. And over the course of his career, Joe Biden, who said that if Israel didn't exist, we would have to create it, very revealing comment, has taken in more donations from AIPAC-related donors than any active U.S. politician. There are others who are retired who took in more, but Joe Biden took in the most. And that's who he's turning to for his re-election bid. And that is why he accused you all of blatant anti-Semitism. That is why on Holocaust Remembrance Day, he accused Hamas of ancient desires to kill Jews. And if anyone knows about ancient desires, it's Joe Biden. In January, Joe Biden broke all fundraising records with a $42 million fundraising haul. And it was purely through the sheer force of his charisma and mental acuity that he did so. No, it was actually because he took in a large percentage of that at the home of someone named Haim Saban, a Hollywood mogul who is one of the top individual donor to Biden, to Bill Clinton, to Hillary Clinton and to Barack Obama, and who said, I am a one-issue guy, and my issue is Israel.
See, and that right there is something that should give people pause because, again, everyone keeps talking about put America first. But if somebody is telling you they're the top donor, they're telling you that they're putting Israel first, nah, bruh. That is a no for me. And we need to think about that when people say that. Like, why would you, what do you mean? What are you talking about?
He's a literal Israel firster of Israeli heritage. His wife, Cheryl Saban, got a vanity position as UN liaison under Barack Obama because he donated so much money to Obama. She is and no offense to Playboy bunnies or anyone, but she met him when she was a Playboy bunny. She did not have a career in diplomacy, is all I'm saying. So this is it. This is what it all comes down to. Biden is controlled by figures like Haim Saban, just as Donald Trump is controlled by figures like Sheldon Adelson, who's not even alive, but who controls much of the Republican Party through his widow, Miriam Adelson, and the Sheldon and Miriam Adelson Foundation.
And remember, his widow actually held a fundraiser recently with RFK Jr., right? So those are the kind of people that RFK is in bed with.
Trump also is a vehicle for Israeli influence through his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who was the son of a major Zionist donor, Charles Kushner, who is very close to Netanyahu. And this has been reported in the New York Times. When Jared Kushner was a boy, Benjamin Netanyahu, he was opposition leader of Likud. And after meetings with AIPAC and various bigwigs, Netanyahu would stay at the Kushner's home, and Jared would have to get out of his bed, and Netanyahu would sleep in Jared Kushner's bed. So Trump's son-in-law is literally in bed with Netanyahu.
Isn't this wild, guys? I know Janine said he's telling all the good tea. Isn't this wild? So you see the relationship between Donald Trump's family, like the Trumps and Netanyahu. You see how all these people are connected?
Trump's ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, who called me the biggest anti-Semite in the world. I guess I'll take it as a badge of honor. I call him the reciprocal U.S.-Israeli ambassador. He is someone who is on the board of, actually oversees the Bet El Foundation, which is the foundation, the charitable foundation for an illegal ultra-nationalist settlement in the occupied West Bank. This is a U.S. diplomat, and he's been overseeing the attempt to dislodge UPenn's administration because they are not anti-Palestinian enough. Sheldon Adelson has been the leading donor to Donald Trump. Just look at Donald Trump rolling out the Abraham Accords, and Jared Kushner is over his shoulder. Netanyahu's in the front row, and to his left was Sheldon Adelson, casino baron, and along with his wife, Miriam. It's not the only candidate that he exerts influence on in this campaign.
Pause for a second. What I liked about this, what he did, even though he went there to speak about Israel and Gaza, I like the fact that Max was able to tie it into the 2024 presidential election, because he's speaking to college kids and he's basically trying to get them to see how, listen, especially here in Massachusetts, it's blue state, right? Listen, both Biden and Trump are in bed with the Israeli lobby, and just literally how close they are to some of these political officials, right? So it was really smart that Max did that he's making the connection. Like, I'm just here to let you guys know, at the end of the day, Biden and Trump are both pro-Israel. And then he brings in RFK Jr. This was an actually good idea.
RFK Jr. has come out with a very strong, we could call it pro-Israel line. It's essentially a genocidal line filled with misinformation, malinformation, and disinformation, as they call it. Baron, and along with his wife, Miriam. It's not the only candidate that he exerts influence on in this campaign. RFK Jr. has come out with a very strong, we could call it pro-Israel line. It's essentially a genocidal line filled with misinformation, malinformation, and disinformation, as they call it.
Yes. RFK Jr., dude, if you follow the RFK Jr. videos on Twitter, RFK Jr. is lying through his teeth about Israel. Lying through his teeth. He's making up things that don't make any damn sense. I don't even know how he's able to keep the lies straight at this point in time. This is why I think he didn't want to debate Max Blumenthal, although he said that he would and he decided not to. Lying through his teeth. It is really, really bad and really cringe, man.
He had agreed to debate me and pulled back from that. And one thing I really wanted to ask him about was his relationship with the Adelsons and with Shmuley Boteach, this reality show rabbi who you've all seen stoking anti-Semitism by his sheer existence. Well, Shmuley is the Adelsons' bag man. Shmuley courted RFK after RFK made comments that the vaccine had possibly been, that COVID had been possibly engineered to exempt Asian and Ashkenazi Jewish people from getting infected.
Yeah, when he made that statement. So you guys remember he made that statement, it was at some dinner party or whatever, and then everybody kind of like lost it.
Private dinner, which was, someone from the New York Post recorded that. RFK gets in trouble. Shmuley starts attacking him as an anti-Semite. Then RFK meets with Shmuley, and Shmuley says, look, we can make this whole problem go away. You just do an event with me, and we help you out a little bit. We're going to feed you the script. And all of a sudden, RFK appears as even more hardcore, more Netanyahu than Netanyahu.
Now, remember, that happened before October 7th. So RFK Jr. came out like staunchly pro-Israel to the point that it seemed like he was acting like it was obvious it was a script. It was over the top, like ridiculous, right out of nowhere. And that was before October 7th. Then October 7th happened. Then the protest happened. And that kind of put RFK Jr. in the hot seat, especially someone that was running on, favoring free speech and anti-censorship. Kind of makes you look some kind of way when people realize you're really not in favor of free speech. This is why they're trying to change definitions of some of these words and what they really mean so that they can say, well, no, that doesn't apply to free speech. So RFK Jr. has exposed his whole ass.
He's accused, says the Palestinian Authority has a pay to slay policy and they pay you to kill a Jew anywhere in the world. Recently, very below the radar, RFK Jr. finally did an event where he was on stage with world-renowned philanthropist Miriam Adelson to raise money for Shmuley Boteach's security detail. So it's clear what's going on here. And so Trump is supposed to be the lead figure in the America First movement. America First is all about American sovereignty, protecting our borders, not getting embroiled in unnecessary foreign conflicts. Most of the America Firsters correctly opposed the $65 billion in aid to Ukraine, which was just money washing for all of the defense firms, the weapons contractors, and was designed to prolong a fruitless war. But they all wound up supporting the Israel aid, which was attached to it. So by the time this vote came to Congress, Donald Trump was found strategizing with Lindsey Graham, the ultimate neocon in the Senate, who said that America First is actually about giving all of our money to all of these other countries to project American strength. America First basically died on April 20th when Donald Trump, Lindsey Graham, and Speaker Mike Johnson collaborated to give all of this money away to other countries whose interests diverge deeply from the real interests, including the imperial interests of the US. That date will be more harmful to Donald Trump among his own base than January 6th was. However, we're seeing contradictions in American nationalism emerge. Figures like Candace Owens, a key Trump influencer who was flown by Sheldon Adelson to the inauguration of the moving of the US embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, has split with Netanyahu's top podcast influencer in the US, Ben Shapiro, and wound up hosting Norman Finkelstein for an hour-long talk to just learn more about Palestine. Is very interesting. And what it came down to was that she had had 4 children and became disgusted with all of these images of children being killed. It's affecting them too, to the extent that they can get over their partisan brainwashing and tap into their own humanity. Tucker Carlson, immediately after October, the top pro-Trump influencer, immediately after October 7th, warned of war with Iran. War with Iran does not, in his view, and in the view of American nationalists, does not advance American interests or the values of America first. And later, he noticed that Palestinian Christians exist, something that many American nationalists do not know.
This is another big one that really gets me, is that a lot of people assume that all Palestinians are Muslim. It's really interesting. This is why you have to find these things out for yourself. You have to do your own research. There are Palestinian Christians. There are also Palestinian Jews, right? So when you hear Americans say that, like, well, they're all Muslim and they're not well informed, and they haven't done their own research.
That, for example, St. Porphyrius Church, which dates back to the 5th century AD, was under siege by the Israelis, was having its parishioners killed by Israeli snipers. He was watching that, and he decided to host Munter Isaac, a reverend of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Bethlehem, who is known for his deeply moving sermon on Easter, Christ in the Rubble. Watch that interview. It was 45 minutes that was a complete demolition of the logic of Zionism and a major blow to the Islamophobia industry by simply presenting another kind of Palestinian who was living among Muslims in harmony, and whose community in Bethlehem was being destroyed by US-backed Zionism. So we need to encourage these contradictions. These are beneficial contradictions for this movement. And so I'll leave it to you to ponder that. I'm not going to offer any advice here. But it's obviously the Democrats who deserve the most disdain, because they're the biggest hypocrites, because they're the ones who take you for granted. They're the ones who say that they're for diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, and they're the ones who ultimately are ensuring that Palestinians DIE.
That was a good one there. So I can't show the entire thing, guys, but definitely watch the full speech on the gray zone. It's really good. So you notice what he's doing here. He's calling out the Democratic Party in my state here of Massachusetts, which is a blue state. Very brave thing to do. Very brave thing to do. There are not too many. I mean, there are Republicans here, but the state is overwhelmingly blue. Just keep it real, right? But he's telling these kids, like, hey, there are other options. There are other things that you can do. You can vote for a third party candidate out there, independent candidate out there that does have the correct position when it comes to Israel and Gaza. That is going to be on the ballot or is on multiple ballots, right? So I thought it was really great how he kind of added this to the discussion, because what he's doing is he's telling these kids who are really passionate about the Palestinian cause, he's telling them, when you go to vote in November, if you're voting for Biden or Trump, you're voting for genocide. That's what he's doing. This was very smart. A lot of people, if they had to give a speech about Israel and Gaza at a college, they probably wouldn't have added the electoralism to it. So that was smart. You can watch the full video on the gray zone, but I'll show you what our politicians are actually doing, because they're just silly and ridiculous. Oh, did I not put it there? Oh, I go to it on Twitter. I want to show you what our politicians are doing, right? This is what we have to worry about in DC, because they're not having serious discussions right now. And I think some of you have seen this. Let me try to pull it up. If you haven't seen it, this debate here. Yeah. This is what our politicians, when we clip this, Corey, can you cut out that part? Thanks. This is what our politicians are doing. This is what they're arguing about right now.
I'd like to know if any of the Democrats on this committee are employing Judge Merchan's daughter.
Please tell me what that has to do with Merrick Garland.
Is she a porn star?
Oh, Goldman. That's right. He's advising. Okay.
He's advising who? What? Do you know what we're here for? You know we're here about AG.
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No,
what you're
ain't
reading.
nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
Order.
Mr.
That's
Chairman,
beneath
would
even
you
your
please
order.
regain order of your committee?
Order.
I do have a point of order, and I would like to move to take down Ms. Green's words. That is absolutely unacceptable. How dare you attack the physical appearance of another person?
Are your
Move
feelings hurt?
her words down.
Aw.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play. with
Baby
me.
girl? I don't think
we are
so.
going to move, and we're going to take your words down.
I second that motion.
So who will have to pay? Okay. Ms. Green agrees to strike her words.
I believe she
Chair
needs to apologize.
recognizes
No.
Mr. Perry.
She needs to
Okay,
apologize.
hold on. Then after Mr. Perry's going to be recognized, then Ms. Green
I'm not
has 4 minutes and
apologizing.
21
Well,
seconds.
then you're not striking your words.
I am
Mr.
not
Perry.
apologizing.
Now let's go. Come on, guys.
Why don't you debate me?
Mr. Chairman, the
pretty
minority.
self-evident.
You're not.
Yeah, you're not.
Out of order.
You don't have enough
You're out of order.
intelligence.
Chair recognizes Mr. Perry.
Okay, move to strike
I'd like to strike those words as well.
I move to
I would
strike
like to strike
the
those
lady's
as well.
words again.
That's 2 requests to strike. That's 2 requests to strike.
Oh, they cannot take the
There's
words.
another motion to strike her words again. Please
All right.
get
Okay.
your members under
Here's the
control.
correct priority. Ms. Green, do you agree to unanimous consent to strike your words?
I repeat again for the second time. Yes, I'll
All
strike
right.
my words,
That-
but I'm not
all right.
apologizing.
Without objection. Without
Not
objection.
apologizing.
21 seconds.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Who's?
It's me.
Ms. Crockett.
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those
I
words.
don't think that's
Hold on.
part of it.
Trying to find clarification on what quality.
Chairman, motion to
I
strike
had no
those
idea
words.
what you just said.
We're not gonna do this. Look, you guys earlier literally just.
You just voted to do
Y'all did it
it.
first, so you
You
don't
just
talk about
voted to do it.
Order.
I'm trying to get clarification.
Look at calm down. Calm
No,
down.
because this
I
is
would
what
like to
y'all
get
do.
through proceedings.
So I'm trying
Hey,
to
Ms.
get
Crockett,
clarification.
you're not
You don't wanna,
recognized. Ms.
man,
Crockett.
I can't hear you with your
and
yelling.
You don't want
Calm
me
down.
To be,
Can
no,
you please calm
don't
down?
tell me to calm down.
Calm down.
Because y'all
Please
talk
calm
noise,
down.
and then you
You're
can't
out of
take
control.
Because if I
Look,
come,
Chairman,
if I
can
come
we
and
send
talk
outside to
shit
take a
about
break
her,
for 5
y'all
minutes?
gonna have a
Mr.
problem.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
All right,
Sorry.
Chair.
I don't know why
Okay.
you're
Order.
acting
Chair
like
now
that.
recognizes.
These are the people running the country. This is what our politicians are doing. There's an actual genocide going on, and this is what they're doing. Talking about eyelashes, bleach blonde hair, oh girl, baby girl. Think about it. This is what they're doing. Do they represent you? So I'm glad that Max actually included the electoral piece to that as well. Let's go ahead and put up that poll. This is in reference to the Biden admin that just resigned, Lily Greenberg Call. Do you believe more Biden admins will resign over Gaza? 58% of you said yes. 22% said no, and 19% said I'm not sure. That is 1,259 votes. Interesting. We will have to wait and see. Did someone just say catch me outside? Manifest said catch me outside. Catch me outside. Oh my God. Okay. What are we? Am I going to come back to those? Oh, yeah, I'll come back to the comments in just a second. I do want to dive into the next Louisiana question. So we're going over the Louisiana ballot measure results for 2023. So let's go into question 2. I should be able to finish these up next week. Here we go. Louisiana Amendment 2, constitutional right to worship in a church or place of worship amendment, October 2023. A yes vote supports providing in the state constitution that the freedom to worship in a church or other place of worship is a fundamental right that is worthy of the highest order of protection, and providing that a legal challenge brought against a state or a local government action for conflicting with the right would be required to be examined by a court with strict scrutiny. This measure actually was ratified by 79.19%. Now, some of you are wondering, why was this even an issue? I think this stems from the pandemic, like during that time where they said that even places of worship, like if you had lockdowns, you could not go to places of worship either, and physicality, right? So I think that's what this is in reference to. Let's go down a little bit more. There's a note here from Roger Meadows. This was a complete rejection to the outgoing term-limited Democrat Governor Bell Edwards, who instituted lockdowns violating the First Amendment for people to gather at a place of worship. So yeah, which is probably also why they chose a Republican governor to replace him, who got more than 50% of the vote in the open primary, and therefore no runoff is needed in November. Who supported this? State Senator Beth Mizell. One of the arguments for it was the freedom to peacefully assemble and the freedom of religious expression were casualties of the pandemic. While some may consider our freedom of religious expression and our right to worship with our spiritual family an optional privilege, I urge you to recognize that this is an absolute right and must never again be compromised in times of crisis. So, yeah, I'm not even going to go through the argument against it. I think you guys already know what that was about. But again, about the pandemic, there was no campaign finance money spent to support it or oppose it. So that was interesting. But yes, that was ratified. And we'll go into this one about the retirement. I think this one's interesting as well. Louisiana Amendment 3, state retirement system. Again, October 2023. A yes vote supports requiring a minimum of 25% of state revenue that is designed as non-recurring to be applied to the balance of the unfunded liability of the state retirement system. Interesting. So let's dive into what it could do here. The allocated funds would need to be used by each retirement system to pay off the oldest debts first. The amendment authorizes the state legislature to provide for in-state law for determining how to distribute the one-time funds among the retirement systems that have debts. If the state legislature does not create a law outlining the distribution requirements, the amendment provides that funds must be distributed proportionally based on each system total debt compared to the overall debt of all state systems. This is done by using the most recent valuations provided by the Public Retirement System Actuarial Committee. None of the funds given to a retirement system could be used to fund cost of living increases. The state retirement system, including the Louisiana State Employees Retirement System, the teacher retirement system, the Louisiana School Employees Retirement System, and the Louisiana State Police Retirement System. Going into the election, the minimum requirement was 10%. So that's interesting. And it shows a following table lists the underfunded accrued liability of the state retirement funds as of June 30th, 2022. Interesting. Unfunded accrued liability of state pension systems. So it's those teacher retirement system of Louisiana there, and it shows all the amounts listed there. And then I want to mention who supported it. Who supported it? State Representative Richard Nelson and Barrow Peacock. It's an interesting name. Who names their kid Barrow? Both Republicans there. Who opposed it? It looks like no one opposed it. And there was no campaign finance money spent to support or oppose it. A note here from Roger Meadows. This one received a little under 1 million votes, 995,333 to be exact, probably most likely because the average voter did not understand the question or they felt it does not apply to them. So they left it blank. And that is not uncommon, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes these questions can be worded in such a way that it's very difficult to understand. And that's on purpose. That's on purpose. In Massachusetts, we'll come back next week and start with number 4. In Massachusetts, we actually had the ranked choice voting question on our ballot for 2020. And the reason why, when you talk to people, the reason why most people voted no is because they didn't understand the question. So there's that, folks. All right, guys, that is my time, fam. Oh, the super chats. Sorry. Don't want to forget those. Sorry about that. Anthony, thank you, wonderful ladies, Sabby, Crystal, Brianna, and Katie, for all you do during these times. Thank you, Anthony. Venti Cafe, are you going to keep on streaming until you hit 100K, Sabby? No, I'm not. No, not tonight. That's funny, Venti Cafe. Savita says Abby had so many docs on Palestine as old as 7 and 8 years ago. Yep. Thank you, Super Seamster. Nice top, Sabs. Thank you. Z Manny says Max Blumenthal has endorsed Jill Stein. Really? I haven't seen a statement yet. I'll have to check Twitter. Thank you, Cup of Joy. The Sonoma State president should be celebrated. I expect my alma mater, San Francisco State University, to divest. Well said, Cup of Joy. The Oracle says Netanyahu said he was going into Rafah where there was a settlement agreement, or whether there was a settlement agreement or not. That says it all. It does. Thank you, Super Seamster. Sab Anomaly will interview Jill Stein. Let her know. Oh, interesting. I'll have to check that out. PB World, he's had hair treatment and Botox. They all had teeth done, especially Trump. PB World says, I know exactly what Biden had done. The Oracle said he got the weave and teethies combo. Kai says, I hate it when my whole ass is exposed. It gets cold. You guys are funny. Thank you, Circle. Thanks for playing, Max. The whole thing is worth watching. Yes, watch the full speech on Gray Zone because I think it's a little bit over an hour long. So check that out. And thank you, David. Guess our government is a retirement home and daycare. Well said. Let's bring up Rockfin and we'll go ahead and close it out. Yeah. Thank you for the tip, Roger. A publicly traded company is owned by shareholders. I said this one already. Yeah, I read this one. Sorry, Corey. Corey's probably like, what in the world? All right, we are out of here, folks. Have a good weekend. This is my Sunday off, so I won't see you guys again live until Tuesday evening. So, yeah, have fun. And thank you for the super sticker, Trash Panda. Trash Panda. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, folks. Do the damn thing. What is this? Wary says probably will hit 100K by Tuesday. Knock on wood. We will see. We will see. But I will see you then. All right, guys. You know how we do this. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.